Are you trying to get yourself funding high amounts at 0% interest, say over $100,000, but you're still getting denied by the banks and you're not sure why? Well, in this video, I'm going to walk you exactly through how to set up your LLC in the right way. There are some important details that you definitely want to look out for, and we're going to cover, a lot of that content here so that you can set yourself up for success, set up the LLC in the right way so that you can secure that funding. My name is Majid. I'm the founder of Hungry Wolf Blueprint, and this is my page where I'll be sharing more about credit, funding, and how you can get yourself high amounts of capital at 0% interest. So let's dive in. Okay, so one of the first things that you want to look at when you're setting up your business, and this is an important detail, is how you name the business. So some guidelines to keep in mind, you want to choose an entity that is not considered a high risk industry because that can affect the amount of funding that you'll get. You also want to check if there's already an existing business in your state that has the same name like you're going to choose. So always good to go to your state's Secretary of State website and try to search the exact name that you're planning on using to name your business and make sure that it doesn't exist. And so what are some examples of, industries that are considered high risk? Here are some examples of that, like anything to do with gambling, cannabis, pawn shops, financial services, like for example, stock trading is considered high risk. Industries that have, high expenditure of capital, like for example, trucking is also considered high risk. So it's important to keep that in mind as you're choosing the name for your business. So another factor also as a little bit of a best practice, it's better if you use a vague name so that you're not stuck with one particular type of industry. Some ways that you can do this would be, choosing a word and then saying something like ventures, consulting, group, like maybe your initials, for example, group, initials, global, or if you don't want to use your own initials, just using a different name. Having a vague name is beneficial for you because it gives you the ability to, be able to have a business that operates and, has some flexibility of what it can be doing. And it also makes you less of a risk when it comes to going for funding with the banks. NAICS codes. So basically what an NAICS code is it defines in particular where you are and in which industry you're operating as a business owner. So some examples of low risk NAICS codes, anything to do with, consulting, software development, businesses that don't have a very high capital expenditure or overhead are considered lower risk. For example, if you have a marketing business or an e-commerce business, those are all, good NAICS codes to set up the business with. Some of the ones that are considered high risk, similar to what we had on the other page, but a little bit more detail here. So anything to do with bars or alcohol establishments, those are considered high risk. Gambling, amusement parks, entertainment industry, that's also considered high risk. Construction, if you're using, if you have a very specific type of construction that is, a riskier type of trade, maybe somebody is, for example, climbing up on roofs and doing roof work, that's considered high risk. So those are some of the NAICS codes that you generally want to try to stay away from. So when it comes to registering the business, there are some important details to look out for here that, a lot of people tend to miss out on, and it messes up their ability to get funding. Generally, you have the option to register, in your state or out of state, right? But it is best to register in your own state to avoid complications with having, multiple addresses on for the business and where you live, and it can lead to, some confusion when you're working with the bank also of where do we deliver, for example, the 0% business credit cards. Why do you live in one state but your business is registered at an address that is out of state? So those are some minor details to definitely look out for, because it helps you to avoid complications when it comes to doing the funding applications. Now, of course, you're also going to have the option to register the business in your own name, or you can use a registered agent. I generally recommend, and from what I've seen with applications, is that if you do use a registered agent, sometimes the bank will come back and ask you for identity verification. They'll ask you why your name is not on the articles of incorporation. So that can lead to denials when it comes to funding. So most simple way to do it is just use your own name when you're registering the business. It'll make the application process more straightforward, and they won't ask you to verify your identity every time you're doing an application like they would if you were using a registered agent and the registered agent's name was on the articles. Also, when it comes to the address of the business, we definitely want to use a physical address, whether it's a business address or a home address, and you want to avoid using virtual addresses or PO boxes. Banks generally don't like virtual addresses. They see them as being higher risk. So even if you need to register to your home address, registering your business to your home address, that's totally fine, and it doesn't affect your ability to get funded. And we do that a lot for our clients here. Sometimes we'll just register the business to the home address. So the next thing you want to look out for is the business phone number and email. So for the business phone number, I would recommend getting a dedicated phone number for the business, because it is good for the banks to see that you have a separation between your personal number and your business number. There are some ways that are low cost that you could do this. You could use Google Voice, Freedom Voice, Nexa. There are some other apps out there also. And it helps you for fundability if you actually register that phone number in a 411 directory so that it can be looked up by the bank. When it comes to the business email address, I also recommend setting up a business email. It makes you look more professional. The banks like that. It can be done easily just by, buying a domain. If you're not sure how to do that, it's easy to hire somebody on, Upwork or Fiverr, and they can do it for you for a low cost. You just register a domain, and then you can create a custom, business email that is associated with your particular business. Now, DUNS number. This is also an important setup to do for your business, because it's going to help you for funding and to establish business credit. So Dun & Bradstreet, you can get the number for free on their website. You just go there, you create a profile, and you can get yourself a DUNS number. The banks do like to see that you have that. It does help your profile to look more professional. And if you ever need to make any changes to your DUNS number or, correct some info, it's pretty easy to do. You just call that number there and they can help you. So now once you've set all this up, that's when you would go and actually register the LLC. So a resource that I use for registering the LLC for my clients is we use busy.com. So it used to be called InkFile, but they changed the name to Busy. But this is much easier and more straightforward than trying to register the business through the Secretary of State. You can do it as fast as 5 minutes, and also just going to irs.gov to get your EIN number as well. And so, yeah, this is all, stuff that you can do yourself without having to, pay anyone to do it for you. And you also want to set up an operating agreement, especially if you're a multi-member business. And I'm going to be creating a walkthrough video of how to set up the LLC on Busy and how to get the EIN number. That'll be a future video that we'll be making. So now, what do you need to bring with you to actually set up the business checking accounts? Of course, you want to bring your EIN letter. You want to know what NAICS code you're going to use when you open the account. Bring your ID, copy of your operating agreement, your articles of organization once you get those from Busy and the Secretary of State. And of course, if you do have a business partner, you'd want to bring them with you when you're opening the business checking account. So now that we walked through everything to do with setting up your business the right way, I just want to let you know that we do have a team here where we can walk you through the whole process, set up your LLC, get you funded between $100,000 and $250,000 at 0% interest. That's what we do here on a regular basis. This is, to give you some perspective of a couple of clients. So our client Everett, for example, he was a real estate and crypto investor. He had been trying to get himself some funding before joining us and only got approved for a smaller card. Like I think his highest business credit card was $5,000. We ended up getting him $93K in about 2 months. Another client here, Rajesh, he was the owner of a med spa. Him and his business partner, we funded them both, and they ended up getting $240K after working with us. And that was very beneficial for them to be able to expand and do more operations with their med spa. So yeah, we have clients from all different types of industries, consulting, e-commerce, marketing, real estate investors, and a lot of strong approvals for these clients as well, of course. So if you would like us to walk you through this whole process, set up the LLC, and get you funded step by step, the link will be in the bio of this description of this video. And so thank you for joining here on this video. I hope this added value. If you'd like to learn more about what we do, stay tuned for future videos. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and looking forward to the next one. Thank you.